Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we have Salamangreat Eldlich. Now I think this variant has been done before, probably has, but I just want to bring up my own deck list about this. The thing about this deck is that one, it's super consistent, especially the Salamangreat engine, and combined with the Eldlich engine, which is just really disruptive. It's just really strong. So we're up against Pendulum, and we're going to start off by normal summoning the debug. We get the search for a gazelle. We link into a Balinx, and then Balinx will go ahead search our good friend Sanctuary. Now we're going to activate Sanctuary. We're going to reincarnation link to Balinx, which will trigger our gazelle in hand, which will special summon it. Gazelle will go ahead activate its effect, which will be dumping a copy of Jack Jaguar to the graveyard. We link 2 into Sunlight Wolf, and Jack Jaguar will trigger, shuffling back the other Balinx in our graveyard in order to summon it to a zone our Wolf points to. A Wolf will trigger, which will recur our Gazelle, and then we pretty much just go on reincarnation link, and then we set the rage. The reason why I went for the reincarnation link at the end is just to get our rage online, and we just pretty much just set one pass. So we have an Ash and 2 pops, not too shabby. It's honestly meh. So I'm not ashing his spellbook magician. I just want to ash his spellbook of knowledge. So yes, we are going to go ahead. We're going to be ashing that for now, and he baits out the ash for the desires, which is smart of him. Not really sure why he scooped right there. He had Cerberus, he had Jackal King, but I guess I could have popped anything he tried to do. He has Magician's Left Hand, which can negate the first trap effect, which is which isn't great for our deck. Not sure why he scooped. Maybe I could have just like defeated him from that point on. I don't think he could have Pendulum summoned. Like the best play he has from this point: pop Cerberus, search Jackal King, summon, activate Jackal King, summon Cerberus, and then he can activate left hand if he wants, but I'll just chain rage, and I'll kind of just fail. I don't think he could have done much from that point because the only 2 live cards he has is his left hand and his Cerberus. So not necessarily it was me who did a good job, but I'll just show how great this deck is in our next couple of replays. For this replay, we are up against Sacred Beast. I think he's playing the structure deck Sacred Beast, because I know for a fact that this card is in the Sacred Beast structure deck and this card is in the Sacred Beast structure deck too. So we're going to be going first again. I'm going to start off with the Cursed Eldland, and we'll get this search for an Eldlich, the Golden Lord. We're going to activate a Golden Lord. We're going to be discarding the Rage, because why not, in order to get rid of the Cursed Eldland. And then Eldland will trigger, dumping a copy of Huaquero. We're going to set 2. We're going to activate the Eldlich in the graveyard, which will go ahead summon itself, because I kind of valued the impermanence over the Conquistador, as the impermanence can also potentially negate a spell. So that's kind of our end. We're going to activate the Huaquero and the Conquistador, setting a Scarlet Sanguine and the White Destiny. So our opponent just going to start off his turn by activating Pot of Desires. I ash that. Then he summons the Kaiju, chain the Elixir, which will summon back the Golden Lord, and then he hits the Raviel with his Chupacabra and just draws a card. He activates 7 Spirit Gates Unleashed, searches a Dark Beckoning Beast, activates Dark Beckoning Beast. I just chain Impermanence to negate it, and then he sets this trap. I don't know what the trap does, and he activates Swords of Concealing Light, which for this turn is negated, meaning none of my monsters will go to face down defense, and pretty much I will not be able to change the battle position of my Eldlich for the rest of the turn. So we're going to be setting a Golden Lord. I probably should have activated Scarlet Sanguine. I think I just didn't want to get both my Eldliches on the field, as it did risk them getting hit by something, but I guess I'm okay with that. So he's going to activate Desires. I ash again. Poor little guy who got ashed twice in a row. And he kind of just passes. So I'm just gonna activate the Conquistador and the Sanguine, special summon Conquistador and pop the Swords of Concealing Light. And pretty much I could have easily just OTK'd him, switched the Conquistador to attack over everything for game. So didn't really show the Salamangreat side of it, but once again, Eldlich is Eldlich, just puts up so many disruptions. So now we'll go on to our last replay. And I think we are up against pure Eldlich. Seems to be pure Eldlich. Yes, we are up against pure Eldlich. This is zombie. I think it's not pure Eldlich, it's zombie Eldlich. But whatever. He's just gonna start off with an extravagance. I'm just gonna activate Ash, and then he just chains Called by the Grave. So now Called by the Grave resolves, and he draws 2. And pretty much he has 2 Golden Lords in hand. He sets the Lost Wind, the Sanguine, and the Called by the Grave. So I'm going to start off by normal summoning the Buffalo. The reason why I'm confident with the Buffalo is because I can, even if I do discard the Gazelle, I can just summon it off will later. So he's just going to activate Sanguine, summon his last copy of Golden Lord from the deck, and the only cards he has remaining is Called by the Grave and the other thing. So now we're going to go ahead and use the effect of the Golden Lord, and I will just discard 2, but he has the Called by the Grave, unfortunately, so that will fizzle. So now I just go into Balinks, and then Buffalo will trigger Chainlink 1, and Balinks will trigger Chainlink 2, because I would rather have the draw 2 than not get to Search Sanctuary. So yes, we do get to just draw 2, and we get a Search for Sanctuary, and we drew a Spinny and a Black Awakening. So now we can just go ahead, summon out that thing. Now I don't really know what I was doing. I could have just dumped Spinny, summon back Spinny, go into Update Jammer ODK like that, but he had Lost Wind, so it didn't matter too much. I don't know what my thought process was at this point. I could have done so many better things. I just used the Sunlight Wolf to recover my rage, and Spinny will summon itself back, and then I get the recovery for a Gazelle. I go into Splash Mage and try to go into I think Gazelle could have triggered. I mean, Gazelle should have triggered because it was sent to graveyard. Maybe there's some sort of catch, but yes, we're just gonna be acting Splash Mage, and he changed Lost Wind. That's okay. We're just gonna be using Elixir of Black Awakening, summoning out the Golden Lord, kind of just passing. Very, very weak board, but during the end phase we can get a copy of Scarlet Sanguine. I think the main thing that makes this deck kind of great is the amount of recursion this deck has. It can pretty much always just recur everything, especially with Salamangreats. So now he draws it into a Huaquero, and doesn't really have much from there. At most he could have just set 1, hope that his he could just banish my Splash Mage target. Wouldn't matter too much. I just normal summon Gazelle, dump a Spinny, summon Spinny, go into Update Jammer that way. Really, it was a meh duel. He can just attack over my Splash Mage. I have the Rage, which can pop a Gazelle in my hand to pop his Golden Lord, which would not end very well for him. So those were the duels. Not the greatest duels I've shown. I probably should have gotten some better ones, but I'm kind of under time constraint. So we'll go on to the deck list then. So here is the deck. We have 2 copies of Golden Lord. There's no real reason to run more than 2, except unless you're up against some deck that really loves to banish your Golden Lords. If in that case, I recommend putting a 3rd Golden Lord in your side deck. But 2 is enough because you can always recur them. 2 copies of Jack Jaguar. 2 is alright, I guess. I mean, I honestly like this at 2, just in case you it's just great to have, because helps you recur material if you just normal somebody go into Bailings, shuffle back anything you want, such as something like a Foxy if you really like. But nah, that wasn't actually a very great example, sorry. But I like to run Jack Jaguar. If you want, you can cut this down to 1, but he's kind of a brick, if you would say it, because of Gazelle, but I just like him at 2. 3 copies of Debug, just once again Stratos for the deck. 1 copy of Falco. The reason why I run 1 copy of Falco is honestly just because of Nibiru. Falco has become kind of essential because it kind of acts as a way to recur your Gazelle. Sometimes maybe something weird can happen. Normal summon Gazelle, stump Falco, return the Falco, and do weird stuff from there. I don't know. 1 copy of Buffalo. I only run 1 because it can kind of turn into brick, because it does require Cyberse Monster to be in your hand, and you won't always have the Cyberse Monster in your hand because we're playing Eldlich. You can't always just expect a Cyberse card in your hand. 2 copies of Spinny. It's really nice at 2, just being able to, it's a nice card to hard draw. There isn't too much space to play it at 3. Not that playing at 3 will matter, because sometimes it can once again be a brick if that's the only Salamangreat in your hand. You can't really do much from there, so I just played at 2. 1 copy of Foxy. To be honest, you can probably increase it, but it is very easy to whiff the Foxy in this deck. And I guess the most relevant effect in this entire deck is the effect to pop spells and traps on the field. So that's kind of why we play Foxy only at 1. 3 copies of Ash. It's a great hand trap. I almost swapped this out for Ghost Ogre because Numeron's going to be in the meta soon. But I'm just keeping it as an Ash for now. This can be any hand trap you want. 3 copies of Sign and Mining, really where the deck shines, because it can send any of your Eldlich stuff to the graveyard, which is super great. 1 copy of Black Awakening, and 1 copy of White Destiny, 3 copies of Sanguine. Those are the ratios I play for the elixirs. I stopped playing the Black Awakening at 2 because you can sometimes just lock yourself into Cyberse through cards like Splash Mage and Transcode Talker. So I just tend to play this at 1. 1 copy of Circle, once again for the consistency. 3 copies of Curse Elland. It's a basically Cleaford Scout for Eldlich. 1 copy of Will of Salamangreat. It's basically Monster Reborn. 1 copy of Sanctuary. Just 1 is fine. Nobody plays it at any more than 1 unless somehow it gets popped. Then if your opponent's playing some sort of pop deck that just likes destroying everything on the field, then I recommend running another copy of Sanctuary in the extra deck too, in the non-extra deck side deck. 3 copies of Impermanence just for negates. 1 copy of Rage basically makes 90% of game states a Trident. The only reason we run it at 1 is because you can always just recur it with Sunlight Wolf anyways, and you might not always be able to resolve its effect. 3 copies of Sanguine. Sanguine is Sanguine, you can't go wrong with that. Just summons extra monsters on the field. Just summons your Golden Lord, which is super great, best elixir in the game. 3 copies of Conquistador. The pops are probably the best effect out of all the Golden Land spells and traps. 1 copy of Huaquero and 1 copy of Golden Land Forever. These are probably the second best Golden Land cards. Huaquero is just for graveyard based decks, and Forever for the extra negate. And Golden Land Forever can also just tribute trap monsters too, which does get them in the graveyard, which is super great. 1 copy of Roar. The Omni negates are always great. And yep, that's the main deck. For the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Access Code Talker for Access Code ODK. 2 copies of Heatleo. The main reason why we run 2 of this is just to spin spells or traps, sometimes for ODKs, but doesn't come up too often. 1 copy of Transcode, just for the Update Jammer ODK, and Access Code. Basically, as long as you're able to get 3 Cyberses on the field, not even 3 Cyberses, 3 effect monsters and 2+ Cyberses with that actually have a level. Pretty much you can always just pull off the ODK, go into a Transcode, go into Update Jammer, then a Transcode, revive Update Jammer with the Transcode, go into an Access Code, and pretty much by that time you should have three different link monsters in your graveyard with different attributes. The update jammer, probably a Balinx, and transcode. In some cases it can also be splash mage. If you want, you can go and do splash mage first, summon back a monster just to get the extra attribute in your graveyard for access code ODK. But pretty much you'll be able to get a 5300 access code, the ability to destroy 4 cards on your opponent's field, sometimes 3, and pretty much attacking twice, which is easily an ODK. 1 copy of Unicorn and Phoenix, both of them just for general use. 1 copy of Hida. Hida is great. If it's destroyed, then it pretty much just searches 90% of the monsters in this deck. I think it's every single Cyberse monster, Salamangreat monster in this deck. I think it can search with its floating effect. Just a great card, especially in the mirror match where you can just revive any card in your opponent's graveyard. 3 copies of Sunlight Wolf, just to recur your traps and being able to almost infinitely just destroy your opponent's monsters. 1 copy of Splash Mage, the monster reborn, super nice. And finally we run 3 copies of Salamangreat Balinx. Balinx is obviously just great. Not only does it search a very important card in this deck, Sanctuary, it also just acts as graveyard protection, which is super great. So that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed it. Do like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.